I was down in Texas on a wildfire detail, and the particular place where I was working on this detail was an area where there was a lot of grass fields, and so we were having a lot of fires in grass field types, fires that were started from vehicles traveling down the road, dragging chains on trailers, and they would spark. And of course, it would then start a fire in the grass. And grasses burn very fast and very hot. And the particular time when I was down there on this detail, it was very windy. So the fires were not only fast and hot, but they were wind driven. So the wind is pushing the fire. And so we responded to a fire. We were working, trying to contain the fire, and the wind was just blowing relentless. And we just could not get ahead. Every time we would kind of get out in front of the fire and get to working on a fire line, because of the wind and how fast the fire was burning through the grass, it would just jump the fire line and start burning on the other side of where we were working. So myself and another firefighter, we went out way ahead of the fire to where there was a farm, and this particular farm had a pretty good road that went through the farm. And so we talked to the farmer and asked him if it would be okay if we started a fire along that road, which was, again, way out ahead of the main fire. And we would go along the road and start a fire, and this is what's called a backfire. And so this fire would burn back towards the main fire, and thus that is a tactic of trying to stop the main fire. And the farmer, he did not like this idea, and rightfully so. A lot of the grass in Texas is extremely valuable to the farmer, so they try to save every bit of grass that they can. But because of the wind, this was really the only option. We needed to get rid of all of that dangerous fuel between us and the fire, because not only was it a tactic to help stop the fire, but where we were at, where that road was at, because it was so far from the main fire, we were in a dangerous situation because there was so much fuel between us and the main wildfire. And so this is a dangerous situation to the wildland firefighter profession, is to have a lot of terrain and a lot of unburned fuel between them and the main fire. And so the idea is you start those backfires and remove all that dangerous fuels between you and the main fire that can be a problem. And so you and I need to do the same thing. There's some things that we need to remove between our relationship and God's relationship, our relationship with God. Because if we don't remove those things, they can be dangerous. They can sneak up on us, just as in the case of fuel between a wildland firefighter and the main fire. The fire can sneak up on you and become very dangerous. Paul talks about this when he's writing to the Colossians. He mentions some things to those at Colossae that they need to get rid of, that they need to remove. Listen to what Paul says. This is Colossians chapter number 3, beginning in verse number 8. There he says this: "But now ye also put off all these: anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy, filthy communication out of your mouth. Lie not one to another, seeing that you have put off the old man with his deeds." So Paul was reminding those at Colossae that they needed to put off all of those bad things. And there's definitely some things in this list that I'm still working on, and I'm sure that you need to work on as well. But you need to get those things out of the way because they're dangerous. You need to get rid of them because they can sneak up on you. Things like anger, things like wrath and malice, and even filthy language. Those things can tear down your character and tear down who you and I represent, and that's Christ. So we need to backfire and get rid of those things that are in between us and our relationship with God. Paul then goes on to say in verse number 10, when we put off the old, when we get rid of those things, he says in verse number 10, and have put on the new man, which is renewed in knowledge after the image of him that created him, and that's Jesus Christ. So when we get rid of those things and we put off our old nature, our old ways, then we put on the new, and that is Jesus Christ.